Hi everyone, this is Intuitive Edge, where we take an intuitive look at what's going on in our world. This is our month ahead video for the month of August 2025. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be a very interesting month ahead for August. I hope you stay tuned because July was all about the earth and the earthquake that happened and all of those things that happened in July, the water events, the flooding. But August, I think, is going to be more of a political earthquake. And stay tuned because you're not going to want to miss this. Okay, so I did my opening meditation earlier today and I wrote some notes and I want to share with you some highlights, some things that I think are going to be coming in for the month of August. Now, I'm going to start worldwide and then I'm going to center in on the United States because I'm picking up on something for the United States that if this happens, this is going to be earth-shattering politically. So, but before I get into that, let's talk about the rest of the world and see what's going on there. When I tuned in, I saw a glacier slide, a rock slide or a glacier slide somewhere south in the South Atlantic Ocean, maybe Antarctica, something to do with it. I kept being pulled to Antarctica. And I felt like there's some sort of geologic shift in Antarctica. Maybe there's an earthquake, maybe it causes part of the glacier shelf to fall. I don't know that it's, going to be a catastrophic thing, but this is just something I was seeing happen. Now, those kind of things probably happen a lot down there. I don't know, but I heard the word land deformation, subsidence, and I kept getting the South Atlantic. There could also be trouble with a cruise ship in that area or range of area. What I was pulling into was like south of Tasmania, south of New Zealand kind of area. Okay, and then when I pulled into Antarctica itself, I heard lots of secrets. I heard cultivation, colonization, labs, like scientific laboratories, and I got the word hormones. I don't know where that came from or why I got that word. I don't know if there's some sort of secret laboratory where they're working on splicing a hormone. I don't know. But I was feeling really big secrets in Antarctica. There is exotic plant life. Now, I know there's a lot of theories about Antarctica and that maybe it's not all ice. There are old maps of Antarctica that actually show the landmass mapped out. So everything is not what it seems, and that's what I kept hearing. And I got something about greenhouses and scientific breakthroughs and discoveries. I heard about something about exotic birds, and I saw this large bird, like 3 foot, 4 foot, maybe taller, a large bird. It wasn't anything that I think like is known in the world. It looked like a shoebill, but it was pink. And then I heard something about testing, and then I heard something about paradise. So I know that flies in the face of what we know about Antarctica, but there was just some weird stuff pulling into that, so I'll leave that for what it's worth. Okay, next, I feel like the month of August, there will be a very polarizing event. And I feel like the entire month is going to be very polarizing to the psyche. The human mind has been cultivated and manipulated. And there is an event. I kept hearing a day of reckoning. And I think it's going to perhaps expose just how much the human mind has been cultivated and manipulated, and this is going to be very challenging, especially for those who have been manipulated and had their minds poisoned or had their minds filled with things that were not true. And then they've built their whole persona around that untruth. When that untruth gets uncovered, it can leave a psyche, someone's psychology, their very psychiatric state vulnerable, because this is going to be very hard for some people to take when the truth is exposed, and I believe it will be exposed. I wrote, beware the puppeteers versus those who take the fall. I do think, politically speaking, that there will be people who take the fall, but there's always another layer behind that person. So keep that in mind when they say the buck stops with Obama or the buck stops with Hillary Clinton. Just know the buck doesn't always stop where people think it stops. That there is puppeteers that run the show. Just, that's what I was getting intuitively. Okay. I hear Nancy Pelosi in the news. She's already in the news, but that'll be more in the news. Okay, before we jump over to the United States, I want to talk about Brazil. I saw Brazil coming in, and this felt really kind of challenging for them. I felt like there's a crackdown coming and also an uprising. So it felt like there's going to be some sort of clash, and the people there are getting weary, and the government is getting more oppressive, and it feels like there's going to be like this tightening of the, I don't want to say news, that's not a nice visual, but there's a tightening of the tension between the two sides, and something about a bonfire, and I got like natives, so I don't know if there's going to be some rituals or some type of energy work or spells or something to try to fix the tension that is felt there, but there's a lot of tension in that area. I was pulled down more into South America. I got Argentina. There's a much lighter energy in Argentina, and I actually got like the heart shape. It felt very heart-centered. I felt like there is something coming. It feels like from the government, they're going to do something that's going to benefit the people of Argentina. And it feels like it's going to benefit them for like 20 years to come. Like in 20 years, this will still be talked about. It'll still be felt. Like the government's going to do something that will help the people, and it will be felt for years to come. It felt very positive. I don't know if it's like a monetary gift or tax relief or something that is going to, but it's into the future. So this is really positive for them. I also pulled into that area a little more, Central South America area. I got El Salvador. There's going to be some big crackdowns, and I feel like this could be on cartels or gangs. And I got the word, there's some bad hombres, and that's what I heard. And this is that there's some very dangerous cartels, bad hombres, okay? And I feel like the military could be doing something, moving in, but there's a big crackdown with the government on these kind of rogue gangs and cartels. So it's dangerous work. So, caution to those who are in there, prayers or whatever you want to do to pray for these people that are dealing with these bad hombres, but it's going to be dangerous. But I do think that the government is committed to cleaning something up and to not leaving any loose ends. And that's really all I got for national. I know there's probably a lot of stuff. Oh, I did hear something big concerning Greenland. Greenland is going to be in the news, and Iceland, I felt there was going to be more Earth volcanic activity. Probably not surprising to anybody, but it will be eventful. Okay. All right, so let's get into the United States. So I talked about the polarizing event. I mentioned that briefly earlier. There's going to be a big shakeup in Washington, D.C. It has to do with something called Crossfire Hurricane. For those of you who don't know what that is, that was basically the Russia collusion narrative. What has been uncovered by Tulsi Gabbard is that there was a collusion, but it wasn't Donald Trump and Russia. It was this Crossfire Hurricane. I do feel like there's going to be indictments that come down. I heard grand jury, I heard indictments, I heard guilty and nowhere to hide. Now, this is where I heard day of reckoning. I felt like the media was going to be silent. Like, this is going to be so explosive and so huge, but the media is silent over it. And I feel like there's going to be a battle over the airwaves, and the truth must be told. I heard the word FCC. Now, for those who are not American, the FCC is the Federal Communication Commission. That is the federal agency that governs the airwaves. They regulate all kinds of different things. I feel like there is a loophole in the FCC, and Donald Trump, President Trump, is looking at using this loophole to go after the media companies. Trump is considering something that has not been done before. It's usually reserved for wartime. And I feel like there is a loophole in the FCC that will allow the president to go after the media companies, because it wasn't just the people in the government of the Obama administration that did those things. It was the media. Now, back 10 years ago, this is what we were told. 24/7, the news was pumping the Crossfire Hurricane allegations that Donald Trump was a Russian asset, that he was working with Putin, that Putin basically installed him, and all of that. And it's come out recently that all of that has been turned on its head. There's proof now that that was made up by Hillary Clinton's campaign. And we can't leave out the British with Christopher Steele and the dossier that came from over there. This goes very, very deep, and there's a lot of tentacles that go into this thing. So Donald Trump, I feel, is going to use a loophole in the FCC's bylaws that will allow the president to take over the airwaves, maybe for a day, I don't know, where I believe he's going to strong arm the media who was complicit in spreading the lies of Crossfire Hurricane to the public with the whole Russia collusion. I'm sure most of you Americans, you remember this whole thing. We were bombarded 24/7 with this: Trump is a Russian asset. Trump is working with Putin. Putin is controlling Trump. All of that. We were bombarded with it. And I think that Trump is going to exploit a legal loophole. It's legal, but it has not been tested. This is what I wrote in my notes. Trump will consider it as a matter of national security. And I don't know how this is going to play out, guys. These are feelings that I was getting. So feelings could be very different from how it actually plays out in the real world. But a scenario that kind of piqued my interest was if Donald Trump used this FCC loophole to strong arm the media to retract everything that they said about that being fact, that being truth, make them maybe apologize to the nation, make them correct the record, and maybe admit their malfeasance, if there was malfeasance on behalf of the media, which obviously there looks like there was. He's going to use this as leverage. Donald Trump, you have to give him credit, is a good negotiator. And I think he's going to use this as leverage over the media. Now, with the FCC is the government body that issues licenses. And the FCC has the power to take away your license. So, I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but what I was feeling is Donald Trump is going to use this loophole within the FCC to strong-arm the media to correct the record, or they lose their license. Now, losing your license that's basically the end of you. You don't want to lose your license to broadcast on the airwaves. Can you imagine any of those news agencies lose their license? They're done. They're defunct. They go bankrupt. They lay off everybody that works there. Okay? I think Donald Trump is going to pull that nuclear button with the FCC. Now, who knows? I could be a little bit off on how I'm seeing it. Sometimes when you get a feeling as an intuitive, it may not play out that way at all. Maybe it looks a little bit different, but the feeling I got is that Donald Trump is going to do something to hold the media, and he's going to probably embarrass the crap out of them, because he's good at that too. He's going to embarrass them publicly, and they will have to clean up that record and clean up the mess that they shoved on us for 10 years when they lied and didn't fact check. And I think some of those media outlets are probably guilty of malfeasance. I don't know. They can maybe claim, oh, we didn't know, we were just fed from, but Donald Trump's, I don't think it's going to be about blaming, you get to blame someone else. You have to come clean or you lose your license. That's what I'm feeling. And the FCC, they're going to play ball. They're going to play ball on Trump's team. This will be fascinating as an American watching this, because what a turn of events. What an absolute turnaround. Donald Trump was impeached over this, and that could have been the end of his presidency. It is a miracle. With all of the things that have been thrown at Donald Trump, including getting grazed by a bullet, it is incredible that this man is in office right now. And had he not been elected on November 5th, we wouldn't have known any of this. This would have been buried under a ton of mud, and we would never have known. Now, a lot of people have known this. A lot of people have suspected that this was all lies, but the narrative was so pushed for so long. And that's why I was feeling, let me get to my page back here, where I was feeling that polarizing event that would be so challenging to the psyche. What I saw were people screeching. Where did I write that? Here it is. Crying, screeching, and weeping. And I'm feeling this coming from the younger people, maybe age 40 and under. I'm feeling confusion, dazed, and disbelief. And this is, if Donald Trump can pull this off, this is going to be one of the most strategic, brilliant things to ever come out of a White House, I think. I mean, maybe that's a bold statement, but this is brilliant. If he pulls this off and gets the media to retract 10 years worth of lies or lose their license, it's possible maybe the media will be nationalized for a day. Maybe there's some wartime loophole at the FCC that the president can take the reins for a day if needed for national security. I think they're going to pull something like that. This is for national security. Our nation was lied to for all these years. The record needs to be straight. And it's legal, but it's not been tested. That's what I kept feeling. Something Trump is going to consider as a matter of national security. has not been tested, but it's legal. We've never done it before. And this is going to wreck the minds of a lot of people that believe every word of what has been told about Trump being a Russian asset. It's going to really ruin their days. Nobody wants to admit they were lied to. Let's be honest. Nobody likes to admit they were duped or that they were sold a bill of goods and that they believed it hook, line, and sinker. Nobody likes that. That moment of truth, that moment of reckoning where you go, oh, crap. Now I look like a fool, or now, this or that. And I can't believe I believed that. All you have to do is just say, you know what? I don't know everything that happens behind closed doors in the government. We have to know politicians don't always tell the truth. Now, in my generation, I'm a little older than some out in my audience. I'm a Gen Xer, okay? In my generation, we grew up not trusting the government. We grew up knowing, oh yeah, they lie. I don't know that the younger generation grew up feeling that somebody might not be telling me the truth. I don't know. Tell me in the comments, does this younger generation do they just believe or is there something that tells people, I don't know if I should trust the government? I think this younger generation trusts. And this is going to be a huge wake-up call. And again, guys, I don't know. This is a possibility. It's possible that maybe it won't happen. Maybe that nuclear option with the media isn't going to take place. I don't know. I felt like the potential is there. Now, do I get everything right as an intuitive? No. And maybe this won't happen. But I want to throw it out there because I think there's a good possibility that there is some type of nuclear option that Donald Trump will use to force the media to come clean. And what better way to do it than to hold their very existence, to basically have the plug in your hand and say, I'm about to unplug you from life support unless you do what I tell you to. It's a nuclear option, and I think it's on the table, and I think it will be used. So how's that for August? That's what I get. We'll see what happens. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. This has been Intuitive Edge. Have a great August. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.